Hello and welcome everybody to Man's Model Moments Midweek Model Meet. So I think some of you thought that I might not be on tonight because it's been a very hot day in the UK. But actually my office isn't too bad tonight. It's 23 degrees outside. It's probably about 28 or so inside. So I've got my hydration, so I'm good for that. But I thought I would as I missed last week, so obviously it's my birthday, so celebrating there, and thought we would have a midweek model meet this week. So good evening, everybody. Just having a little look. We've got Adrian, we've got Park Loafer, we've got Little Things Junkie, we have Steve Horman, John Christmas, we've got World War II scale models Dave, got Lox 9, we've got Stuart, and we've got Howard Kendrick, and I'm sure others will join in. So, and of course, people loitering and not commenting, which is absolutely fine. So, good evening, everybody. It's been an interesting period of time over the past couple of weeks, both in sports, in geopolitics, and in modeling. So an awful lot of things to potentially talk about today. I do have some videos on some of that, but of course, this is kind of independent of the videos I put out as well. Also got, so just talking about videos, talking about stuff I'm doing at the moment, as Brian Smee just pops in. Hello. So I haven't had a lot of time for modeling recently, and on Monday I managed to, so I had a commission. I did 4 of the hardest models I've ever done in my life. There's a company called Alazan. I'll actually see if I can get it up. To actually show you. Because it's worth looking at. See if I can pull their page up. Here we go. So if I share my screen. So this is Alazan Miniatures. So obviously a French company, and they make 1/43 scale cars. So they are quite expensive cars. And when you actually look at them, we just have a look at some wheels here. You can kind of get the reason why, right? So a wheel, for instance, each individual wheel is 4 pieces. You have a resin, and this is cast resin, not 3D printed. This actually makes them look like they are clean. They are not. These are the cleaned up versions, let me tell you. So you have a wheel, you have a brake disc, you have the outer for the alloy in photo etch, which sits in there, and then you've got a rubber tire that goes over the top, and then you have these metal axles, which you have to cut to size because they are not the correct size for your model. Some of them have extra pieces, so more photo etch depending on what kind of wheel it is. So these are really complex. Actually, I don't think you could see that because it only allows me to show one window. Apologies. Because it opens a new window, you won't have seen that. Here we go. You can get an idea from this. See how you have multiple pieces. Here we go. Here's another one. So just imagine you've also got like either a resin insert or photo etch to put in on the top here as well. So they are really complicated and really difficult. They use acetate film for the windows. And because it's cast resin, and not, let's just remove that, are not 3D printed, it needs a lot of cleanup. So these things have been the bane of my life for some time. Finally finished them. The guy was very happy with them, but I'm glad to have those off, because any modeling time that I had free that I wanted to do with the stuff with, I really had to devote to doing those. So that's one of the reasons I've not had a lot of build stuff recently. But one of the things I've managed to do, and obviously I've been doing this on Scale Model Inc. Live, and also kind of finishing off. I finished off today. So this is the Maschinenkrieger Großer Hund from JP Fans that I got. So this is the sort of front part of it. It goes on there. So it's a fairly substantial model. It then has these two sort of Panzer Schreck things that go on the sides. I've got it to this point because today I primed this. So this is all primed in matte black, because I'm going to use this as part of my tonal modulation video. So I've got several different types of model to demonstrate several different types of surface modulation. And this one's a really good one for, I think I'm going to do like a zenithal highlight. I'm also going to use it for weathering. So for doing paint chipping, rust effects, using the washes. So it'll get used for a lot, this. I was also thinking of using it for one of the themes that I'm going to have in the latter stages of 2026 is, of course, competition. I mentioned that at the beginning. So I'm thinking about using this as an example of building for competition, because there are several areas of it. So I've cleaned this up. So there was a central seam there, which is now basically gone. And the sanding at the back I've done, I don't know if you can see, there is a very slight, so in areas there are tiny bits. I've got most of it pretty well, but there are tiny little elements which are just need a tiny piece. So I'm going to demonstrate how if you want to go for a competition, if you want to do something that is going to be able to compete in a competition, there are several steps to it. So I've got several videos. The first one is about choosing your battles wisely. So it's about what to do. The second one is like building. So this will be part of the building one, in that you want to build your model as well as you can, just for the basics, because one of the first things judges look for is how is it built. So if you can see any seams immediately, that's probably going to rule you out for any sort of position. So I want to show you kind of what that looks like and how to deal with that to get that. This is a fantastic model. And I'm really pleased that I've, in the second lot of JP Fans stuff that's coming, I've got another one of these. So this is the original, like the Großer Hund. But several of the Maschinenkrieger sort of, this is like an AI-driven weapons platform. That's in the fluff of it all. And several are based on the same frame. So they have the same basic frames, sprue frames, and then they have slight differences. So they alter the head and the body. The one I'm getting is basically a space version of the Großer Hund. So it has like this jetpack section that goes on the back and slightly a different head and things. So I'm going to do a step-by-step build of that, because these are really, really good models. And considering they came out 2011, I think it was 2011, 2013, something like that. Really, really nice tooling. And I think it's worthy of a video, but I started this before. I didn't film any of this, so it won't be this one, obviously. But it's essentially the same model kit. So I thought I will do that on the second one that comes in. And it's quite a quick build as well. It's involved There's a lot to it, but it's not difficult, if that makes sense. So there's a lot to do, but it all goes together beautifully. There's minimal cleanup on the things, and there'll be a whole bunch of stuff that you can do in the painting piece of it. The painting of this, I think, is really gonna make it. So that's part of what I'll be doing for the. I say, though it'll be involved in several videos. It won't be the whole video, but it will be involved in several of them. So that's one part, and I'm very pleased with the way this is going. So if you fancy a Mojo build, fancy something completely different, this is a really good kit, I would say, to go for. Ironically, obviously I've been showing that you can buy these things from Japan pretty cheaply. Oh, and my camera's decided to go skewy. Hang on, I think I need to switch it off and switch it on again. I think I actually need to switch to a different camera. And then switch back, yeah. Then it refocuses. Yeah, I was just talking about how I've been talking about how you can pick these things up at JP Fans for around about half the price or less, which is really good. Ironically, I'm now able to supply these kits. So the latest stuff from Hasegawa is coming through, and it includes all the Machine and Krieger kits, including some ones that you can't really find on eBay or JP Fans. So I'm in a little bit of a quandary about, do I stock them, because they are quite expensive kits to buy new, and as I've just spent all this time showing people how you could get them cheaper, it's just like, I don't know, is it worth it? So I might just do a questionnaire to everybody. I mean, I think I might stock some of them, because some of them, as I say, are really, you can't get them at all. The Camel, which I think is the one that Sprue and Glue showed on Scale Modeling Live a few weeks ago, is impossible to find anywhere. And because Hasegawa do them, and they, there's a load of these coming through, and I've been talking about them and been very impressed with them. I just thought it was very strange how I went on Amarang earlier in the week to find, it was actually to look at, see if I could get a particular AMT/MPC kit, and which unfortunately is not in production at the moment yet. And I saw at the same time, it's just like, oh, hang on a minute, there's all this Machine Krieger stuff. So I thought that was quite ironic. So let me know if you'd like me to pursue that. Then please do let me know, and I shall have a little look. The shipment hasn't come in yet from. We always get advance notice of the Hasegawa stuff. So we will see. Anyway, a fair few more people have popped in. So I can see we've got Craig Jukes. Good to see you. We've got John Alec. Daddy Maisie. We've got Alien Ian. We have, just scrolling back down, I've got Paul Dye. We've got Phil. And I think that brings us up to the present. So if I can ask you guys, if you have a question, if you can put QQQ or question in capitals, just helps me pick it out of the comments. I am using StreamYard tonight, so I can display them on screen. If you do that in the way that Howard has here, then that just helps me to manage everything. Howard, comment: I did sniff out a potential wands chemical, but definitely not acetone, unless you've added something else. Pear drops comes to mind. That is a nuclear option. Is amazing. I rescued an old airbrush. Oh, thank you, Howard. I'm glad you found it useful. So nuclear option is a fairly simple formula. Actually, it only has 4 things in it. All pretty common. All actually probably most of. Well, you'll be familiar with all of them. Yeah, I mean, I sell it because I use it myself. All of the stuff that I've made, I made for me, and it's also useful. If it's useful for me, it's useful for other people. So I've had really nice feedback from people coming into the shop who've used the aqueous thinner and said it's really changed how they use their, how they paint, which is really good. Because you develop something for yourself, and that's fine, but you don't know that somebody else has the same workflow or the same way of doing things. So it's nice to get that feedback. When people say, "Yeah, this is good," or "No, it's not," because at least you can use that, right? The comment I get a lot is about paint reset, about the smell, right? Because this has a really pleasant smell. It's actually nice. It's quite lemony. It's very citrus. It's lemony, but not quite lemon. And you can't drink it. Please do not try to drink it. It does say very clearly on the side, "Don't drink it." It wouldn't kill you, but it wouldn't do you any good. Probably make you sick, as in vomiting. But yeah, so the comments I get mostly about that are the way it smells. And I was asked to do larger volumes of it. So the largest you could buy it previously was 100 mils. I've now done a 250 mil version of this. So if you want to, use it in bigger projects, drip a bigger model or something, that is available in larger quantities now. So I do have all of the solutions now are available. They're in stock. So the one thing I was waiting for, as I mentioned previously, was my licensing from HMRC. I've got that. I've got the ethanol, industrial methylated spirits, or IDS as they refer to it now, that I was waiting for. That's primarily, it's in a few things, but primarily the low odor leveling thinner, the alternative to the Mr. Hobby, my equivalent of the Mr. Hobby. So Man's Magic leveling thinner is the same as Mr. Hobby. The low odor one does the same job, but it just doesn't stink in the way that Mr. Hobby leveling thinner does. So it's a little bit less aggressive, certainly for your nose. So yeah, if you can put CCC QQQ comment or question in front of your comment or question, it just really helps. So just to go back to and then that was the there's no acetone in nuclear option. Acetone is so acetone's a ketone, and ketones are quite good in terms of their solubility. So a little too good, because something like methyl ether ketone, MEK, is often used as a modeling cement. Acetone is in modeling cement. So they're very aggressive. So they will melt a lot of plastics. A lot of ketones are quite aggressive, and they're very noxious. Like they smell. So if any of you who have smelled MEK acetone, they're very volatile, pungent, not very nice. They're big on the VOC list. So nuclear option doesn't have any ketones. In fact, I avoid ketones generally because of that. So then you're into things like, on the other side, so alkyl ethers and acetates. So if you think of something like butyl acetate, ethyl acetate, those are slightly more fruity smelling. That's what's in, I don't have it here, Tamiya. cement is basically a mixture of butyl acetate and acetone, 50-50. So they tend to be a little bit less aggressive on your nasal system. Then you have things like glycol ethers, which are really useful. So most of my, in fact, I think all of my products, I think not all of them, but the majority of my products contain some sort of glycol ether. Because a glycol ether has the properties of both, it sort of sits between alkenes and ketones. And so they have good solvating properties, but they're also quite miscible. They're miscible with water. So they're kind of bridging solvents with good solubility. So they're really useful. So those, and they're quite low odor as well. So there's a lot of those. It's one of the reasons that all of the solutions I make, like the routine clean, the aqueous thinner, the paint reset, they're all miscible with each other. So you can use aqueous thinner in your airbrush, rinse it out with routine clean. If that doesn't work, you can go and use paint reset, and there's miscibility between them all. If it still doesn't work, you can use nuclear option. So it's a little bit different when you go to the Mr. Hobby leveling thinner equivalent and the low odor versions, because they're designed around lacquers mostly. They're less tolerant to water. Now, there's still miscibility between them, because obviously if you think about Tamiya and Mr. Hobby aqueous paints have water in them. It's just the tolerance to the water. So it's how much of the water phase there is. But anyway, I'm getting distracted by chemistry. Let's have a little look. So Daddy Mousy had a question down here somewhere. And said, is the FX Angel Interceptor I presume any good, not Amy good? Yes and no. It's a fairly simple kit. I have one. From they actually made a snap fit kit in the 80s, I think it was. And really interestingly, at that time, they supplied rub down transfers rather than, I think they provided both actually, water slide and rub down transfers, which is really interesting. You don't see rub down transfers very often. And yet, for some reason, they did then. And there's certain advantages of those. If you want so out of the box, it's a 1960s style kit. It's not very good in terms of new tooling and stuff. Needs a bit of work, but with a bit of work, it can look quite nice. So it depends really how you define good. Yeah, I think that's all I can say on that. Is there a way we could all put in JP fans' requests and collaborate on a bulk buy in Discord? I don't see why not, if somebody wants to coordinate it. So essentially what happens is once you've purchased once you've found something and bought it, it gets shipped to the warehouse. I think it's 60 days. It's either 30 or 60 days. I'm pretty sure it's 60 days free storage. So you can buy as many things as you like in that time, and they'll come into the warehouse. And then when you want to actually ship them internationally, you just check all of the boxes for everything that you want to ship, in one go, and ship it. So if somebody wants to organize no, obviously somebody has to actually be the recipient of that parcel, and then ship that out, ship individual ones out to people. But yeah, I don't see why there isn't, why it wouldn't be possible to do that. And I think, yeah, if people are interested, the Discord is a good place to discuss it and see if that's something people want to do. I say, because it's got quite a big window there for people's storage, you could say basically anything up to X date, from when the first purchase is made. Maybe you want to do it 50 days after that, because obviously the last person buying, it might take a few days for that to get into the warehouse. So say there's a cutoff date, and say, okay, everything that reaches the warehouse, so nobody's incurring storage fees, gets included in the package and then sent out. And then presumably, depending on what your shipping weight is, and they do tell you the individual weight of every item that comes in, you can divide up the shipping cost then, proportional to each other. So not a bad idea if you only want a couple of things. Otherwise, it's probably just as easy just to do it yourself. Okay. Let's have a little look down. Paul says your regular airbrush cleaner is pretty good too. Thank you. As I say, I created these things for myself, so I wouldn't create something for myself that doesn't work. That's kind of obvious to say, but that's the origin of these. I didn't just think, hey, I should create this. It really was that I wanted an aqueous thinner. I wanted certain properties of that, as I've discussed on the video. Next one is coming, where I talk about the individual components, what they do, and then there'll be the routine clean will come out after that. So the routine clean is not just the aqueous thinner without the acrylic suspension in. Okay, so because that was my first thought, is that I don't want to leave this in an airbrush if it's got an acrylic dispersion, even if it's in a small amount. I don't really want to leave that in my airbrush. I really want something to clean it out afterwards, which is just, no residue, which is where this came out. And the thing is, with this, you want all the properties that I discussed to make it work with paints. This doesn't have any such requirement, right? This just has to clean stuff and leave it clean. So this has a stronger solvent system than this. So it has different things in than this does. Some of the things are the same, different percentages and stuff, which is why they are, very compatible. But it is specifically a cleaner, and yeah, the nuclear option, which used to be just called airbrush cleaner, came first because I have many times left stuff to dry in my airbrush. Needed a way of getting it back. And a lot of, what is the point in me buying a product which I'm not happy with when I can just make something that does exactly what I need it to? So, and I've used that formula way before I started selling it. So, okay, let's have a little look down. People having a chat with each other, which is always good. Adrian says, any idea when your video on washes will be coming out? Yeah, so I've got several different videos, as I said, with the... so basically, I want to show you different ways of using the different washes. So it's not going to be specifically on the washes. It's going to be on how do you use these with whatever. Like I did the first video on miniatures, right? To show you how to use miniatures. The other ones will be very similar, but on different things. And the thing is, with particularly on AFBs, you can use a lot of the aqua flow washes thinned down with aqueous thinner to create different effects. So instead of using them as a wash, you can use them as a like a weathering tint, effectively. And I'll show you that. I've actually got half. It's in the shop. I've shown people that come in. It's an old Dragon JU152, and half of it I've got just sprayed, and then half of it has actually got the weathering on. So I'll be doing that sort of thing, but showing you how I do each of the individual effects with that. I could give you a time, Adrian, but it would probably be wrong. Things should start moving a lot faster now that my free time isn't bound by something which I absolutely dread. So let's say that. Good to see you, Greg. All people popping in as we go. I see the Junkers is out by Airfix new stealth release system. Yes. So this is one of the things. I was going to do a Tuesday talk on it yesterday, but the lighting in here in the mornings, which is when I used to record the Tuesday talks, excuse Pablo barking in the background, is just terrible at the moment because it's so bright. Over time, I've got shade up on this side because that's so the opposite side to me, because that is where the sun comes directly. I need to also get it on this bit immediately above me, so that it's a more reasonable level in here and more consistent, because it completely throws the camera out, completely blows out, usually my forehead. It was shining. So I was going to record it as a Tuesday talk yesterday, and then I thought I'll do it in the evening, and in the evening it just started to get too hot and, just didn't happen. So I thought I'm going to leave it, because there's a lot to talk about Airfix, right? Or more specific, there's a lot to talk about Hornby. So I'll give you the TLDR up front. I think we are seeing the end days of Hornby. That is my prediction. I've been talking about it for a long time about how they've been doing some stupid stuff. And now they're just pressing the self-destruct button. They're doing some absolutely insane things. So the Junkers JU52, which was one of the big releases, for 1/72nd scale. I mean, it's significant in a number of ways because it's the first 1/72nd scale JU52 that's been released since, I think, the Taleri kit, or maybe the Hella kit, but they were at that age anyway. So fairly significant in the 1/72nd scale modeling World War II world. Looks like a really nice kit. I haven't got mine yet. So it's another, okay. A quick segue into Hornby's appalling practices, right? Part one. So I still have a direct account with Hornby, and there's many things I could talk about with that, one of which happened last week, which is funny. And if I'd ordered those kits, and I've talked about this before, because people pre-ordered them and I pre-ordered them, and I have pre-ordered them, but not through Airfix. Unless my order comes to over £350, they won't ship it. Right? So that's one stupid thing, right? Now what they're doing is the wholesalers who I pre-order through Gauge Master, are now seemingly like second-class citizens, so they don't get their kits until everybody else is done, and then they ship them to the wholesalers. And of course, the wholesaler has to ship them to me, to create this hierarchy. It's ludicrous. We all pay the same, right? We all pay the same amount of money for these things. Of course, wholesalers are buying many more kits, so really they should be right at the top. Pathetic, disgusting business practices. The funny thing that happened last week is I had a Phantom, the 1/72nd scale, not the new one. Phantom, 2 different Humbrol colors, and a 1/43rd scale Land Rover starter kit, which have been on my Hornby order account for, I don't know, 6 months, because they couldn't supply them at the time when they were ordered. They didn't, and they shipped me a whole bunch of stuff, and obviously these things were out of stock. And because they didn't reach that threshold, there's only like about £50 worth of goods there. They didn't ship them. And then last week they shipped them. So I got this box from Hornby, and it's just like, what the hell is this? And it's just like, oh, it's these kits that, were due ages ago. And it's like, so they obviously get to a point where the warehousing costs is more than the shipping cost, because they can choose to ship stuff to you if they want. This is the terminology they use. So that arrived out of the blue. Not any new kits or anything, just that old stuff, which I thought was quite amusing. So, yeah, if you look at, I'll talk about it more in the video, but if you look at the people that are now in at Hornby, I mean, I don't want to sound misogynistic, because it's going to sound like that, but the Transformer team, as they were called, who were employed about 4 or 5 months ago, 3 of them are young women with no history of anything to do with the industry at all. And for me, that's just a horrible mistake. And I would be saying the same thing if they were 3 young men who had no history. The important thing is that they have no history of anything to do with this industry. No knowledge, no experience, nothing. And they're all pretty young, they're all in their 20s. So you don't have a lot of business experience. I know as a business person in my 20s compared to in my 30s, 40s, and 50s, you incrementally learn. And what I thought I knew in my 20s was contradicted, after 10 years of being in business. I knew better than I did. And what we're seeing now, I think, are people that are inappropriate for their positions. Let's put it that way, I believe. Which is why you are now seeing AI slop ads from Airfix rather than I admit, rather too much, from my point of view, PR that we saw before with marketing from Airfix. The thing is, the marketing they did before was on brand. It appealed to modelers, to aircraft people, to AFV people. I haven't seen a single piece of Airfix advertising in the last 3 months that appeals to me at all. I am, or should be, their target market. So I think they are slowly killing the brand. Not the brand, but the revenue stream. There are many other things that go into it, which I will get into more detail in the video. But I think after we see the current round of new tools this year, I don't expect to see anything new and innovative from Airfix in 2027. My only hope is that Hornby go out of business fairly quickly, that they go bust, that Pam sells them and sells them to somebody who cares, like Glow2B with Hella. And sort of adjacent to that, it's fantastic news. And for those of you who didn't know, Dale, who was formerly head of brand at Airfix and did a lot of good things, huge amounts of good things at Airfix, the past 10 years of, he wasn't there for all of that, but he really championed the brand. He's now working for Hella, or rather for Glow2B, who own Hella. Now, Hella have really done nothing, for a long time. And their last 2 releases for me were very lackluster. So I'm really looking forward to what Dale can bring to Hella, because Hella did some interesting stuff in the past, right? I think the Hawkeye was the wrong choice of kit, wrong choice of subject, and was okay, but and the pricing just didn't work for me. And then the Peugeot? Was it a 205 or 305, whatever it was? So I'm really hoping that, and it's funny this, I was talking the other day about how Airfix is now on a almost vertical decline. Not quite vertical, but it's on a big decline under Hornby's mismanagement. Whereas Revell, we're seeing the exact opposite. We're seeing a meteoric climb, and I'll talk about Revell in a little bit. And then if we can get Hella coming up as well, I think that would be great. I mean, how fantastic would it be? For me, if Hornby goes out of business at the end of this year, it would be perfect, right? The Hornby Group I'm talking about. Because, one of the big train companies could take up Hornby Railways. How great would it be if Glow2B bought Airfix and Dale was in charge of it again, and Airfix and Hella were together again, but under somebody who really understands the business, all those toolings. For me, that would be a perfect scenario, right? And I think it would be rightly Schadenfreude from Dale. I think that would be perfect. That would be karma, right? We'll see what happens, but I think it will be strung out for a long time, fortunately. But that would be my hope. And it sounds bad to want the failure of a company or a group of companies or a company which is a group of different brands. But I think it will be better for the individual brands, and I think there will be more jobs available. Ironically, in the individual companies as they're sold off, I think it would be better. But we'll see. At the moment, it's being very much run by Castle now, who are one of Phoenix Asset Management's sub-companies or operating companies. And the people don't come from this industry. They are, I mean, much as I say this, I have worked for an equal number of male and female bosses. The very first boss I worked for was a woman. She was fantastic. She was one of the best bosses I ever worked for. I've worked for terrible male bosses. I've worked for terrible female bosses. The gender isn't the point. It's, do the people know what they're talking about? Do they have the experience that's necessary? And I'm not seeing it. As a business person, I don't look at those, because you can look on LinkedIn at these people, and I look at it and think, that's it. All I can see is that they work for a Castle Now group, and it's like, that's not getting a job through merit. That's getting a job because you're part of a group. That's not a good way of managing a business. So anyway, enough of all of my blither on business. Yes, the JU52 is out. When mine come in, the pre-orders go out. It will be up on the website. Am I particularly excited about it? It's not particularly. It's an interesting subject, the JU52. The Italieri kit is long in the tooth, but it's pretty good for what it is. The pricing of the Airfix one is quite high. The fact that adding cargo and stuff to it is rather here and there in the age of 3D printing. I believe it's got really good like molding for the skin and everything, which is great. Personally, I'm more excited about the Canberra release than I am about the JU52, which is odd because the Canberra is not my sort of aircraft, and the JU52 kind of more is. But the price differential for me is a big one. So yeah, it is what it is anyway. Oh, thank you, Paul, for confirming it is a 60-day storage for JP fans. I thought it was, but I didn't want to lead people into a false sense of security, and then they're like going, it's like, oh, it's only 30 days. I would rather go to the err on the side of caution, right? Which is what I did in the video, right? In terms of the savings. Yeah, it's just like, okay, I looked on eBay. I went with the cheapest price I could find. I didn't include any of the coupons because one person had complained about, oh, it's not an $86 coupon. It's like, well, no, it's not all at once, because any company that's going to just give you $86 for free when you could buy $86 worth of stuff is going to go out of business almost immediately, right? There's a bit of common sense to be employed. So yeah, I think erring on the side of caution and people being pleasantly surprised is better than promising the world and then people be like, oh, okay, the savings only like 10%, after everything. Speaking of J52, does anybody remember the markings were on Iron Annie from the Warlord comic? No, I don't. I did have a bunch of those Warlord comics. Mine actually, I didn't get them the first time round. It was I remember very well, my grandfather went into hospital. He had, I think he had an ulcer operated on because he had a long-term thing with ulcers, which I think were down to Helicobacter pylori in the end, which is it's basically a 10-day course of specific antibiotics, and it just gets rid of it. But he was in hospital, he had an operation. I remember going to see him in the hospital, and the prior person that had been in the bed in the ward, I think because you got those little cabinets by the side, had left a bunch of these Warlord comics. So I got a stash of these. So that was, my great haul for my granddad being in hospital. But I don't think I ever had the one with Iron Annie in. So, and there was Commando and all these kind of things. Steve says Revel pre-orders. I can only find 2 Revel pre-order items on your website, but neither of the promised Halifax kit. Oh yes, good point. I will put the Halifax on my list. I shall create it right now, and then I will finish it tomorrow for you. So those 2 are the ones that I did on the stream the last time because I kept forgetting to do. Okay, that's the T7. I will duplicate that. I'll set it as a draft, and that will be the 1/72 scale. 20-page Halifax. There we go. It is created, but it won't appear active until tomorrow. So, but that means it'll pop up first thing for me tomorrow when I'm in the shop and be able to do that for you. So, thank you. Please do keep any reminders like that coming in because obviously I've had a huge amount of stuff going on and it's really easy. You've seen how easily I'm distracted even on the stream. So. I never take offense at people reminding me on that kind of thing. So, yeah, look for it tomorrow. Okay, just scrolling down. Question, how do your cleaners compare to Deluxe's Brush Magic? I have the latter and it seems to work well, but boy, my feeling is it's rather aggressive. Okay, I've talked about Brush Magic before. I actually have Brush Magic in the shop because obviously some people will use that and they'll be used to it. Brush Magic is 100% one single solvent. So it's a really clever solvent. The choice of solvent is really clever, but it's 100% solvent. So it's a bit like having 100% IPA, right? It works really well, but it will not be kind to your brushes. So one of the things that I wanted, okay, another slight difference between this, well, actually both of these and this is that these have brush conditioners in them, right? So these are designed to clean, remove paint, but not dry your bristles on your brushes out. Now, that doesn't do anything for, it doesn't detract or add to the cleaning in your airbrush. So it's completely neutral from that point of view. But for your brushes, for brush painting, it means that your bristles stay in good shape. So that's one of the things I wanted, because I wanted this product, and if I can find it, where's my brush balsam gone? I don't know, but it's got a green label, so it wouldn't show up with the green screen anyway. In fact, I can pretend, look, I'm holding it here. You just can't see it because of the green screen, honest. So as I mentioned before, Paint Reset and Brush Balsam together do the same job as something like Master's Brush Cleaner, right? It cleans, restores, and conditions your brushes. Now, I separated out those two functions. This cleans whilst not drying and having a little bit of conditioning in, and then the Brush Balsam is like your, it's your spa day for your brushes, and just has that little bit of structure to keep your bristles in shape and protect them. And I wanted those at a price point that is also competitive with Brushmaster's Paint Magic. So together, they're cheaper. You can also use this in your airbrush. You can't use a soap, like a solid soap in your airbrush. So those are the main differences. So they'll do the same job, right? Although Deluxe's brush magic is designed for brushes, right? I don't know how it would be on a model. I don't know if it's plastic safe. So Paint Reset is plastic safe. You can put it on a model. I've used it. I've got a Hurricane. It's an old Revell 1990s Hurricane Mark II that I made in the 1990s, and it has been painted a lot, many times over. And each time I keep using Paint Reset to take the paint off to use it again in different tests. So yeah, you can put that on bare plastic and it'll do nothing. Other than smell slightly nice. Make it smell of lemon. So Deluxe's brush magic is a really clever choice of solvent, but it's still 100% solvent. So it is a little bit more, I know it's more aggressive on the paint. Maybe it is. I mean, you probably have more experience of using it than I do. But it will dry your bristles out on a brush more than Paint Reset will. Question: any gossip stroke news on the rumored 1/35th scale ME323 Gigant? No. I mean, it's a ridiculous scale for that aircraft. I mean, I've done the Italeri, both the 321 and the 323. The 321 was the glider version that needed the well, either separate hindcores, which ended up crashing and killing loads of people, or the Zwilling HE111Z to pull it, and then the 323, which is the version where they threw 6 French gnome radials on it to get it airborne. And those are massive, the 1/72nd scale Italieri ones. The wingspan's like out here. So a 35th scale one, twice that. It's just like, I don't know. It's, I mean, it's not even a really usable diorama. I mean, that's going to be like the size of a table. So, so no, it'll come, I'm sure, but I don't think I'll be reviewing it. Let's put it that way. Okay, Paul says, my car modeling friend claims that Hella Peugeot is a great model. I'm not discounting that at all. So let me be very clear. You can make a fantastic model of a subject, right? That doesn't mean it's a good tool for the company. Okay, so for me, the Peugeot, it was the wrong choice. Let's put it that way, right? It's a bit like Airfix's choice for the kits for Lidl, right? I think they were the wrong kits, and I explained why in my, I did 2 videos on it. The original one just going over them, and then the second one where I came up with 21 kits that I thought were better, and not only better for modelers and non-modelers, but also for Airfix stroke Hornby as a brand. So I explained in that video, more margin on these, and kits that both modelers and non-modelers would buy and be okay with, all of those things. So for me, the Peugeot, it was really big in France. It had a following in the UK, and it had a little bit of limited success elsewhere, right? So, it's not like if they'd done the Ford Fiesta, for instance, arguably a more boring car, but much more widely deployed. I mean, how many Peugeots were sold in the US, for instance? So I talked about this at the time when I said that I thought the Hella had made the wrong choice of kit. The Hawkeye, I think, is exactly the same. It's the wrong aircraft. Just because a model hasn't had a tool of it for a long time does not make it a good subject for modeling. Let me So hear me out a second. So ICM asked me, and other modelers, Gary, I think, what do I think that they should tool in 2027, etc. So they asked me that, and I drew up a list for them. Let's see if I can find that. Actually, it was for this year. I see 2026, and obviously they've had a lot of issues with the Russian attacks intensifying and stuff. But I have a list here of how many did I do? I think I did like 18, not quite 20 kits. I thought would be a good choice for them, right? In no particular order. So one of them, right, the first one was a 1/48 scale de Havilland Mosquito, right? And you might say, well, really? But, Tamiya do, it's like, yeah, Tamiya do really nice 1/48 scale, both the bomber version and the fighter bomber version. But that's a 1990s kit now. And if you think about the way that ICM have invested in twin-engined World War II aircraft, bombers and fighters, DO-217, JU-88, the Marauder, the Hampton, et cetera, et cetera. The Mosquito fits into that. And if you think about what they've done, like the Beaufort as well, the detail that they're able to put into that and the fidelity of that and the crispness of their tooling and everything else, the Mosquito is a beautiful aircraft. It's got a huge following, not just in the UK. It's an iconic type of aircraft. That, I think, is a good tooling, right? Because it has broad appeal. It will sell in a lot of different places. They often partner with Revell. It would be the ideal thing for Revell to rebox and sell, in a wider field, to get access to the US market and stuff. So I think when you think about what a company is going to tool, you have to consider the business aspects. So you consider your market. Now, Heller, I think, with the Peugeot, they're thinking about the French market, which is fine. But really, they should be thinking about the European market. Airfix have been very focused on the UK market, which is fine because there's a lot of UK modelers. But if they were focused a bit more on the European market, like Revell are, they might arguably make more money, right? They don't have to necessarily change a huge amount of what they're doing, just broaden the appeal a little bit out to more European modelers. And that includes by expanding its retail network, of course. So there's different threads to that tapestry, and the Hawkeye, for instance, is mainly popular as a subject in the US, Japan, and yes, the French used it, but a couple of other people used it, but not huge numbers. So the Hawkeye for them, I think, is a really weird one, being that they don't have a big distribution network in America. It's just like this is a perfect, and there's a Hasegawa one, right? It's an older tool, but Hasegawa older tools are pretty good. It might not have the detail inside, but then it's a Hawkeye. How much are you going to actually see? So, all these things balanced, I wouldn't have released the Hawkeye. If I was going to think, okay, we're going to do a European subject, you want the French loyalty, but you also want to expand it a bit more beyond that. The Mirages, Mirage is a hugely used jet in its various different iterations, and you could do modern 48 scale toolings of Mirages. And you have a huge amount of decal options and do a 1/48 scale Mirage 4. I think Heller are actually the only people that did one. I could look on ScaleMates and confirm it, but that was a really unusual aircraft. It was a long-range nuclear bomber. It was distinctly Mirage, but it was a bit weird, a bit different. There's lots of things that they could have done. Hawkeye is just struck me as very odd. especially for the price point. So I'm not doubting that the Peugeot isn't a good model. That doesn't make it a good release for the company, right? And a good release for the company, I always want. So people think I'm a bit sour, I think, about some of the releases that come out, like the Opel Blitz that Italeri did, which I think was stupid, right? Why? Because because people were pointing out, oh, it's the 4x4, not the 4x2. It's like, yeah, and how many people does that matter to, right? You've got to recoup the cost of the tooling. Bear in mind that it wasn't a 100% new molds tooling, and they do specifically say new parts on a lot of their models. Because I went and looked at the ones in my shop, and a lot of the ones that are just new parts say new parts, or reconditioned or whatever. Now the ones that do have 100% new toolings do put 100%. This one just says new tool, which is ambiguous between the two, so it's not even consistent to its own brand. But it's like, don't give us a hybrid kit, which is really going on the fact that it's a 4x4 rather than 4x2, and expect that to do well when you have cheaper, better kits out there already. So if somebody just wants an Opel Blitz, they're unlikely to pick your kit. Whereas really what you want it to be is that people automatically choose it. Like the Tamiya Chaffee, which has just come out. I've got a review on that coming out, actually. Fantastic kit. Immediately, basically invalidates the Italeri one. Why would you buy an Italeri Chaffee for the same price that you can buy the Tamiya one, the brand new tool Tamiya one? There's no reason to buy it. So immediately Tamiya's kit has supplanted that one. So that is the kind of thing you need to do, in my humble opinion. I don't think the Peugeot was the model to do that, right? That was kind of my point with it. Nothing more than that. Question: could Dale convince Heller to take up products Airfix dropped, such as the flowers? That was the first thing that I thought. So I chatted to Dale over LinkedIn when he got the position, and it may have been something I mentioned. Yeah, I mean, again, it's another thing I talk about in the video. What a stupid thing to go down. Okay, we're going to go primarily non-military, you want new market, but we're going to drop this product, which is perfect for exactly the direction we say we want to take the company. It beggars belief, really. Carpetbaggers, they'll work to make the maximum return on their capital for a sale. Yeah, the thing is, I think it's counterproductive, because I don't think they're going to get the maximum return on their investment. I suspect what they will do is exactly what you're insinuating here. I think what they will do is they'll clear stock, because stock has always been, their inventory has always been a problem. So you're likely to see more Hornby 30, 40, whatever % off sales to clear out all of the stuff that's in the warehouse, to get rid of their warehousing costs, and then reissues. I think 2027 will be for Airfix. If it's still around, Hornby will just be doing the year of the reissue. So I think January, the Airfix release is going to be hugely disappointing if they actually do a release day, because who knows? Because that was always something that Dale literally headed. He literally got in front of the camera and talked about all that stuff, and showed his passion and the stuff behind it. Are we going to see that? I don't know. Certainly not going to get it from AI, are you? Right, just scrolling down. I'm aware I have been talking for quite a while. 1/35 scale Gigant, you need a pilot's license and a CAA certificate just to carry it to a show. Probably. I'm not sure it would even fit in a car in one piece. You never know. Helen may bring out some kits that look like eggs. Oh, God. No, not you as well, Adrian. Stop it. Not with the egg kits. Oh, my God. People are going off on eggs now. Do you know how many kit designers Airfix employ? I think Paramjit's still there. I honestly don't. One or two. Thing is, you don't need a lot of designers if you're not going to make new kits, right? So, yeah. So, yeah. So, continuing that train of thought from getting rid of all the stock, reducing staff. I mean, we've seen a huge exodus from Airfix, forced exodus, and then we've seen Castle now put in their own people, probably being paid less. Let's be fair. Or already on their payroll, so it's not an additional cost. So they've saved money out of the Airfix numbers or Hornby numbers. So there'll be some accountancy workarounds to make the company look more profitable than it actually is, so that they can sell it. That's my gut feeling about it. Question on mosquitoes. Airfix do the TT35 variant 172nd scale. They also do 148 scale mosquitoes. Is it likely they'll ever do the TT35 variant in a larger scale as well? I don't think Airfix currently do a 148 scale mosquito. Let me just check that, just to be 100% sure. But I'm pretty sure there are no 148 scale mosquitoes in Airfix's current lineup. Yeah, they just do the 72nd scale. I mean, if you're talking legacy, then yeah. I mean, what is it they have? Let's go mosquito. We want kits. We want static model kits, 148 scale, and we want Airfix. So the Airfix 148 scale mosquito was tooled in 1977. So the only way you'll see it, unless Airfix start doing, going on a different trajectory, which is more than possible, right? And the Hornby's current awful management is as a vintage classic. So yeah, just to show you that. Let's get the scale mates. There we go. So if I scroll down here, you can see 1977 was the original tool. It's been redone lots and lots of times. The last time was in 2014 as the D-Day 70th anniversary kit. So that was the last time they released it. And looks like, yeah, they've done it in pretty much all its, the Mark 6, fighter bomber, night fighter, PR-17. So yeah, I don't think it's likely they'll do the TT ever, to be honest, which is a shame. But so 48 scale. So just looking at it just to see what we have. So released in the last 6 years. Okay, we don't have any because that's not an aircraft. Okay, so Revell so that anniversary one of the old 1977 one, Revell 1/48 scale, which is originally the monogram one, of course it is, and that goes back to 1966. So it's even older than the Airfix one. So that's all we've had in the last 26 years. So then we go back to the 90s, which will have the Tamiya one. Yeah, and there we have the Tamiya. New tool in 98, new parts in 99 for the B4 PR4. So the most recent tool of the 48 scale Mosquito is 28 years ago, which is one of the reasons that I said to Valeria and ICM, Mosquitoes sell. They're like Spitfires, right? It's a beautiful aircraft. It's famous. It's, it would work in the States. It works in Europe. There's lots of different schemes for it, for different versions. As ICM are very good at doing different versions, packaging it differently. They'll do the crew, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I said it, right? You think 48 scale Mosquitoes, they're going to be 10 a penny. And they're not. They're really not. Just looking down. Yeah, 1/48 scale Mossy Night Fighter, not great compared to the Tamiya one. No, I mean, I'm amazed actually that, well, not amazed actually, but it's very much the old style Airfix and the old style Revell of releasing crappy old kits in new boxes, right? Other than that, the Tamiya Mosquitoes basically wiped out those sales, right? Because why would you buy a different one if you've got the Tamiya one? The ICM, if ICM did one, it would be a different type of build, and I think the two would sit side by side depending on what you're looking for. And I think ICM would also do all of those different versions, so you would have, not have to buy aftermarket stuff to do like the TT, for instance. They'd probably release that. Yeah, another one I suggested for ICM was the Manchester. It's one of those aircraft that's very much overlooked, like the Hampton. It's twin-engined, forerunner to the Lancaster. It fits in that 1/48 scale twin-engined sort of shtick that ICM have. I'm sure people would welcome that kind of kit, and it would sell well. So you just got to think about not only is it possible, it's what sort of market are you going to go for? What niche does it have? What does it compete with out there currently? This isn't rocket science. It's it's easy stuff to do with a bit of grey matter in your head. Yeah, the TT35 will be based on the 16 mark, so that's a no then. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd buy an ICM Mozzie in a heartbeat too. Piper Stock, what is the impact of our hobby on the world's plastic pollution issue? None. It's that is a bit like saying what is the annual petrol lawnmower impact on the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. It's just like the world's collected lawnmowers together are probably like, for an entire year are going to contribute a small percentage of one day's air flight. So nothing. The impact of our hobby on plastic pollution, zero. Not measurable, I would say. I mean, as you said there, you've two different points there. Impact of our hobby on the world's plastic pollution issue, negligible. Airfix aiming to finish business. I don't think they're aiming to finish business. I think they will, or Hornby at least, before. Airfix will continue in one form or another, right? Somebody will buy, because it's a powerful brand, right? It's got a huge back catalogue. It's, will it be purchased by somebody who can really make use of the brand properly, yeah. Paul, again, another one, and that brings us up to the present. So wow, that was a lot of time eaten up by just going through chat, but I'm more than happy to do that, and I really enjoy sessions where it's just engaging with you guys, with a little bit of what I was thinking of talking about. There's also renewed interest in the Mozzie now that there are some flying again. Now I need a Hawk Typhoon in the air and a Beaufighter. Yeah, I'm lucky enough. I don't think I've ever seen a Typhoon fly, but I've seen a Beaufighter, and I saw the Mozzie and a Blended. I was very lucky that my father was into air shows. We had RAF Waddington nearby, so I saw a huge amount of stuff there. I mean, I never thought I would get to see firsthand, being a child of the Cold War era, Russian planes like the MiG-23, the MiG-29, the Su-27 fly, and I saw all of those fly at Waddington and other shows. And now we're back to that. Will we ever see those things fly again at air shows? Because they're the enemy. Whereas, yeah, I mean, if you've not seen an Su-27 at an air show, those Tumansky turbines are just, there's something else. It's like an F-16 or an F-15 or something. They got powerful engines, but it's sort of like, it feels like the aircraft is working with the environment, right? The engines are taking air in, they're accelerating and pushing out the back. The Su-27 feels like it's raping the air somehow. It's just like, it feels like it's ripping the air apart. It's a really aggressive kind of feel, because you feel it in your bones. It's very, very different, and that kind of experience. I mean, I love the Su-27, the Su-30, all of those. I think the lines on them, and I think it represents a very Soviet-minded approach, because, right, the one thing the Soviets couldn't do, well, a couple of things the Soviets couldn't do in the Cold War that the West did. So their metallurgy was way behind, and miniaturization was way behind. So the Russian stuff tends to be, Soviet stuff tends to be big. So the Su-27 is a massive plane for a multi-role fighter. Consider something like the Gripen is like smaller than an F-16. The Su-27 is huge to accomplish the same kind of thing. Now, it also has other sort of fringe benefits. It has a big range, which it needs because Russia's enormous. But I just think it's really interesting to see those, different approaches to the same problem, right? And I think that's a part of why I love those aircraft, is having seen them and having that experience. So I agree. I think seeing the Mozzie, if you've seen a Mozzie fly, it's a beautiful aircraft. It's tremendous, as are a lot of these things. Look at a Connie. There's only one flying in the world, but she's absolutely gorgeous. Will Hornby sell the Airfix brand to try and make money before they inevitably collapse? The problem, I think, that they have with Airfix, or in divesting Airfix as a going concern, is I think they'll ask too much for it. So that's the thing. Something's only worth what somebody's prepared to pay for it. And let's say I'm CEO of Ravel Carrera, right? And I'm looking at this and thinking, Airfix have been our competitors for, God, what is it? Like 80 years or so. Wouldn't it be great if we could, for kudos for the company to own them, to own that brand, to fold it into the Revell Carrera thing? Yeah, it would be. How much am I prepared to pay for that? Well, there's all this other stuff. Probably not that much because there's a lot of overlap between the two brands, right? So there's a lot of stuff you probably wouldn't do because it would compete directly, especially with the new toolings in the past few years with the Revell stuff. So you've got to look at it through those eyes. And also, am I going to pay that as a going concern? Or do I just wait for the brand to go bust and then I buy it at a better price? I'm just going to wait. I think, in all honesty, that's what people will do, because I think Hornby will ask, or rather, Castle Now stroke Phoenix Asset Management will ask or be expecting, because they don't want to have a debt, right? They want return on the investment. They got shareholders to pay at the end of the day. So I think the problem with selling Airfix as a going concern is that I think Hornby will want too much for it. That's my gut feel of it. I guess obvious buyers of Airfix are Chinese companies seeking a Western arm and brand, or a Western competitor like Revell or the European distributor globally if they can get the finance. Yeah, I don't think the Chinese care. I think the Chinese have huge factories churning out, really nicely made kits. Look at what Tacom have been doing. Meng, Ryfield. Now you got Zimmy and Toucan and Border. There's no shortage of those companies. Now, as a brand, maybe I can see them wanting the brand name, but the problem is that because it's a legacy brand, unless it's operated in Europe, people are going to just think of it as, oh, it's Chinese now. In the same way, right? The Chinese bought MG, right? They made MGs in China and they weren't very successful. So people aren't that dumb. There was a time, back in the 70s, not that people were dumb, but it just that because the internet didn't exist and word of mouth is a curious thing. If you bought a Vauxhall in the UK, it would be an Opel in Europe. People thought of Opel and Vauxhall as different, but all part of the General Motors group at the time. But that knowledge wasn't as prevalent. Now we know that if you buy a Skoda, a Volkswagen, an Audi, a Seat, they're all Volkswagens. They just have, the basic design of it is the same with different elements, different body panels, different engine, different interior. So it's just they're aimed at different segments of the market. But of course, the company wants to consolidate costs as much as possible, so they have as many common components. So I have a Seat Leon, which is basically a Golf, Golf estate. That's basically what I have. Same as an A3. It's just what badge do you want on it? How much do you want to pay for it? Generally, the best value one is the Skoda. If you want a good driving experience, you get the Seat. If you're German, you buy a Volkswagen. And if you're getting a company car, you get the Audi. Or you like badges. So I can see the Chinese company doing that, but I think they're making enough money without wanting to pay the price of that brand. I don't think it's as big a thing as it would be in like motor industry and stuff. So I don't know. I think the possibility of a Chinese brand buying it is less than a large European company, whatever that ends up being. Any thoughts on a British company buying Airfix from Hornby? Who would it be? That's the thing. I mean, There really aren't that many British companies with the sort of capital. I mean, in one imaginary universe, right? Games Workshop buys them. That would be amazing and horrifying in equal parts. Now they won't, because it's not part of their model, right? It doesn't fit into their universe. It's they can't copyright all of the names and everything else. But Games Workshop are an incredibly successful British company. They got the capital. They could buy FX tomorrow without even looking in their pocket change, I think. But yeah, it just doesn't fit into their business model. So why would they? So yeah, I can't think of a British company. And please, if you've got ideas, do let me know in the comments. But British companies aren't what they used to be. What about a model manufacturing adjacent company such as Plastech could buy FX? They don't have the money. Yeah, I just don't think they have the money. So if you think of Hornby is was it like a $12 million company turnover? So Airfix, they're going to value the assets probably at about the same, right? So say 10 million and change. They're going to be looking for. Well, a company has 10 million to invest in a manufacturing company, for a luxury good. I don't know what company that would be. Steve says, I'm actually old enough to have seen a flying mosquito. It was at a Herne Air Show, Dorset, in the 1980s, and have the slides. Sadly, it crashed in 1996. RIP the crew. Yeah, I think that's the same mosquito that I saw. I saw it in the, I want to say the early 90s. I think it was probably one of the last Waddington Air shows. I don't know. But yeah, I heard when it crashed, and I was like, oh God, apart from the fact that the crew are gone, it's also the frame, These companies need to capitalize on the popularity of YouTube channels. I've been following at Mr. Hughes, collecting all the military vehicles he's restoring, some of which are not available. Yeah. Now, sadly, and a lot of you may know this already, but Airfix are burning their bridges there. Now, I've been very critical of Hornby, as people know, to the point that it caused issues with between Moss and I. Moss has always been a huge fan of Airfix, and they went after Moss. They stopped him using Airfix as a name in Airfix and Chill, of using the Airfix logo, which is bullshit for a start. Let's just say that. And it's one of the most singularly insane things I've thought of. And what it reminds me of is modern Hollywood blaming the audience. It's just like, you don't fight the people who are fighting for you. You give them as much rope as they want. Look at what Dale did. Dale's relationship with Moss. But beyond that, Dale went and he had relationships with people who were also critical of Airfix, because he understood that if you appease critics and people who, not just people who are critical, but people who give honest appraisals, who say when something's good and say when something's bad, the people, you, the viewer, the purchaser, the customer, value their opinion because it's honest. If I say an Airfix kit is good, it's good. If I say an Airfix kit is shit, it's probably shit. So he understood that, and so he was reaching out to all of us, because that's how you build a brand. He understood that. That's why he's a brand manager. That's why he's so successful. That's why he's now at Hella, working for Glow TV. I'm really looking forward to what he's going to do there, and I expect good things from Heller because he is there. But they are biting the hand that feeds them. I mean, Moss was an affiliate provider. People bought Airfix kits through his channel. So he provided direct revenue to them, a huge amount of publicity for free, was a real advocate for them, and they've slapped him. That's disgusting. It really is disgusting. That is not the action of a rational company that understands its target market and has experience in the business. And that's what I was referring to with these young ladies who are now leading the company to oblivion. I'm sad to say. So yeah, it will probably be sold for £1 to a corporate asset company. Well, let's hope not. Question: and if you had the money, would you buy Airfix? God, yes. Yeah. So if I had 10 million, apart from the fact, I'd be living somewhere probably we'd be living in Barcelona. Let's face it, Maria and I would not be staying here. That's probably where I'll end up anyway, right? Barcelona. I'm not going to retire in this country, that's for sure. So if I had the money, like business money, investment companies or whatever, to invest in Airfix, would I buy it? Yes. It's one of, if not the most recognizable brands in our hobby. It's done tremendous work. Dale did a huge amount of tremendous work in the time he was there. Not only Dale, but he built a team, right, that enthused people, that created fantastic tools. The work that Chris did, who now works freelance for Revell, Paramjit, who I expect at some point in the future will work freelance for Revell, or possibly Heller, or possibly both, created some really excellent toolings. If you look at the Saracen, that looks really nice. Obviously, I haven't got to build it yet, but it looks better than the Stalwart. So it was evolved on. The designers obviously do listen to YouTube videos and stuff because they're people. They want to know how their product's received, and make sure that the way the tooling is designed, it's like, okay, let's make sure we don't get those, big ejector pin marks, invisible places and stuff. Now, if they're taking the feedback on and the main company isn't, cutting corners and shortcuts and trying to minimize stuff, it's never a good look. But the thing is, any good investor in a company listens to experts, right? And they have expertise. The main thing is you understand your target market. You work efficiently and within budgets, and you can forecast properly. If you're doing those three things, you can't really go wrong, Airfix, as far as I can see, or Hornby, I should say, as far as I can say, is not being run in any sort of lean manner. I doubt they would understand what the word Kaizen means. Without being too arrogant, I know a lot of people think I am anyway, but I bet I could go into Airfix and in a week I could improve their business operations. I don't have any doubts whatsoever. I know a whole bunch of stuff that they're screwing up at the moment that I could sort out within a week. It's not hard. It just requires experience, understanding, and the willpower to do it. It requires follow through, somebody to own it. I don't see any of those things happening at Airfix now. I think Dale was doing his best, but he was working against the Hornby corporate structure. He was doing what he could in his team, but if somebody else is saying, no, you can only have 50% of that budget, you have to choose what you can do. So it's really tough. So a properly run Airfix without having to shore up, use its profits to shore up poker, whatever it's called, and the other brands which weren't doing well. It's like, hell yes, absolutely. I think it'd be difficult to screw it up, to be honest. I think Hornby are really trying hard. I don't know how they're dodging. Like, if there's a multiple choice test, right? We always used to call it beat the monkeys, because a monkey will get 25% on a 4-choice answer just by randomly ticking stuff, right? Somehow they've managed to get less than that. They're actively working against themselves. So yeah, if I had the money, would I buy Airfix? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't, because I'd invest it in different things which are more profitable. But I get the intent of the question, and I want to answer it in that spirit. So, but the important thing is, so would I buy Airfix? Yes, and I'll try and get Dale back to run it, to or at least the design team side of it, and then I would basically employ a Danaher business system type operation within it for efficiency, and jobs done, basically. I think Airfix will end up being sold by Hornby's liquidators at less than market value. Yeah, that's my gut feel. If I had to put money, if somebody forced me, right, you've got to spend a £10 bet today, that would be my bet. Now, who will buy them? I think maybe that's maybe that's worth a sweepstake. Chinese company, British company, European company, investment group. Yeah. Oh, night, Julian. I see Julian's just popped off. Andrew says, I don't see Hornby going to the wall. Airfix is messed up, but they've got money through the Scalextric sale and the model. No, Andrew, I'm afraid I wholly disagree with you. So if you look at, and I went through this in the video I did of the Scalextric sale, right? The Scalextric sale, they're getting half of the money up front. Half is through continued sales, right? So that's money over time. So it's not money, right? They're still in debt. They're still losing money. The model railways are not on the right footing. I don't know where you've heard that from, but every single retailer and customer I've heard from with model railways is that it is not going well and it is not profitable. Corgi is profitable, as far as I know, but I don't see. Scalextric was apparently doing quite well, so they've got an immediate cash injection from that. It doesn't balance the books. They're still losing money, and they've lost now a part which was generating revenue. How is it not I don't know how they make it profitable, honestly. Well, I do know, and it's not good for us as modelers because we don't get anything. We don't get anything new. Next year, I think 90 to 95% of the releases are going to be Digital Classics or re-releases. I think they might go backwards because now Dale's not there. I think we might start seeing old crap in red boxes. Something that Dale swore they wouldn't do. I think that's going to go and destroy the work that the team put in over the last 10 years. So if I tell people that I build model kits, they mostly don't have a clue. If I tell them that I build Airfix, they get it. Yeah. So the brand recognition in the public domain is huge. It's huge. Yeah. Come on, guys and girls, give a thumbs up. Oh, thank you very much. As Moss says, Airfix is synonymous with modeling in the UK and beyond. I mean, so I think there's two parts to that. It's like the word Hoover, right? Hoover is synonymous with vacuum. But how many people buy Hoover because of that? So and this is the thing that Airfix has huge brand recognition. Hoover has huge brand recognition, but that doesn't necessarily translate into commercial success, right? So if you look at some of these smaller companies like Edward, normies, let's call them normies, people who don't model, have never heard of Edward, right? I think you were talking about a friend of yours from continental Europe, right? It's like, oh, your friend Edward. No, a company. But it's really successful, right? So it's only really required in your niche. And unfortunately, Airfix moved from, people, I have this discussion all the time. I have it in the shop, I have it online, one-to-one. If you think about, Airfix, what they used to be was a toy seller, right? Yes, there were model kits, but they were sold mainly to kids, right? They were available everywhere, newsagents, all the rest of it. And people say Airfix isn't what it used to be. No, it's not, because modeling isn't that anymore. That's what modeling used to be. That was the 60s, 70s, and earlier. In the 80s, it transitioned because of microcomputers, because the popular rise of the PC, Spectrum was the big one, but then you had Atari and Commodore and everybody else getting on board. You had the PC coming through. That distracted, so a whole generation then, my generation, was switched on to video games, right? Computer programming, computers were the future, everything was digital, blah, blah, blah. And in the 90s, so that was the only decade it plateaued. I've talked about this before in my history of modeling videos. It plateaued, it didn't die off, but it transitioned. In the 80s, it transitioned into more of what it was at the time in Japan, which was an enthusiast's hobby. So we are now a group where it's a nerd hobby, right? Now it's becoming more mainstream because of COVID, and because of the heightened awareness of things like mental health, right? Which in the 70s just wasn't a thing. It was like stiff upper British lip and all that. So because of that transition into a true modeling domain, the brand name of Airfix doesn't necessarily help it. So I still have a huge amount of people coming into the shop who are getting back into modeling. Oh, our Tamiya is still the gold standard. And it's like, yeah, basically, yeah. But other companies have also come to meet them. But as an overall, that is kind of what the industry measures itself against, right? Is Tamiya, right? They don't say our Airfix kits as bad as they used to be. They recognize Airfix. Often, actually, it's, oh, are Airfix still making models? I remember these from when I was a kid, and I always have to explain, yeah, they're not like that anymore. They've changed. They're now a modern manufacturer in the same way that Tamiya were, blah, blah, blah. So brand recognition is only a small piece of it, and it's only really useful for attracting new customers who aren't familiar in the industry. And we are very much a niche industry now. So we have our own ecosystem. And that's one of the things that they always trying to do with the flowers brand, is to bring it into a different market, into more of the mainstream, because of things like mindfulness. And that female market is a big untapped one for modeling. We are 95% male in this hobby. So, and again, which is staggering that a company would then think you need a transforming team to come in who are all young women. How many 25-year-old women do most of us hang around with? I appreciate most of us would love to hang around 25-year-old women in some respects, but there's no commonality. There's no overlap in terms of interests or anything. I was invited to my ex's boss had an 18-year-old daughter, and we were invited to her birthday party. It was like it was at the Vets. It was just like a big like barbecue drinks thing. It wasn't like a party something. And so there was a lot of people from the Vets. So it was a big mixed group, but there were a lot of teenagers there. And some of them did say hello and talk and stuff. Oh my God, it's like, it's complete. God, most of them are so boring. It's just like because they've been brought up in a different time, different world, different things interest them. And if you don't understand, they had as little understanding or interest in my world as I did in this. That's a problem, right? If you're trying to sell. Anyway, So the brand recognition piece is only really helpful for if you're trying to tap into that. Otherwise, a legacy brand can become a shackle because people are just like, oh yeah, I used to build Airfix kits, but then I switched to Tamiya and they're just so much better. And it's like, then you have to go through the whole conversation about the investment, blah blah blah. So it can be difficult. That one I've already done. From what I've seen recently, it's probably important not to confuse Barcelona with the Basque Country. Just saying, yes, it is. So the Basque Country is an area of both France and Spain. They speak their own language, Basque, which the people from Barcelona, that section of Spain, are Catalan, which is different from Basque. It's kind of like fraternal, but that's about it. But Catalan is it's like a French version of Spanish. If you want to say that, it has a lot more similarities to French. I find that easier than normal Spanish. All Latin-based languages, and they can all kind of understand bits of language, but Basque is different again from that. Who owns Hornby? Phoenix Asset Management own Hornby, the Hornby Group, and Castle Now are one of their. They created, I think, Castle Now to run Hornby as like an intermediate group, but Phoenix ultimately owned that whole lot. But you'll hear Castle Now mentioned as well. But they're an investment company. They're a private equity company. They gave Hornby the injection of cash it needed in 2016. And obviously, 10-year plan hasn't quite worked in the way they wanted it to. And now they've got rid of everybody and installing their own people to realize on that investment, I guess. That's the TLDR kind of piece of it. Do you think there'll be any new tools for 2027? No, not really. I mean, I can tell you that I had a private conversation with Dale, and I wasn't very hopeful after that. And now he's gone. I think chances of us getting new tools for 2027 are, they were low before. I think, snowball in hell's kind of chance. Hoover example: the asset strippers hoovered Airfix. Oh dear, that's terrible. Thanks. Our response on liquidation. Ironically, Phoenix's Stanley Gibbons arm fell into receivership and Phoenix bought it back. Another Airfix purchaser could be the Indian molding company. Oh God, I hope not. That would be the worst option if the Indian molding company bought them, because that is one of the source. Well, I would argue the major source of Airfix's tooling issues have been in the QC from them. So I think if they owned the group, it would, or not the group, but the brand, it would be well, as good as the Land Rover Tata, whole incident piece. But so yeah, not great. The other side of this, of course, is if you have no particular brand loyalty. I don't really. I have fondness for Airfix as a brand historically, but I'm not loyal to Airfix in the way that, because I think brand loyalty in the 21st century is an anomaly, because the brands don't have loyalty to you. Why should you have loyalty to them? It's not like it used to be in mid 80s, I'd say, before the greed is good thing came in. Companies were very much, well, smaller companies, let's say at least, felt they owed their customers, right? In much the way as niche manufacturers and retail businesses do today. Like, I feel I have a relationship with my customers. I owe my customers good service. They don't owe me anything. They come into the shop. If they don't see anything they like, there's no reason they should buy anything. Airfix doesn't give a damn. The Hornby group, the people there, don't give a damn about any of us as modelers. So why would I give a damn about, what they're particularly doing? If they make a kit which isn't as good as another kit, I'll buy the other kit. My loyalty is what is being provided. I'm not going to buy a shoddy good from a company just because it's got a particular name to it. Why would I? They're not respecting me if they're not providing the best that they can. So why would I respect them with my money? It's a very odd thing that companies can expect that from us without providing it. Respect is a two-way street. So yeah, it's a weird one for a company like that. Who's that music producer? It's Pete Waterman. Oh, there we go. Pete Waterman. It's just come up in this. Maybe both would be suitable purchases and would probably use. Even for them, 10 million's a lot. Yeah, maybe get James May and Richard Hammond to buy Airfix. That'd work. That would work because they could have an Amazon series on it as well. Now that's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. May's models. There we go. The series writes itself. Get James May to do it. Pete Waterman could buy Hornby. Yeah, Airfix sold their train models. Although there was a recent thing about them. Oh, do you want us to bring the train models? Yeah, you sold them to Dapol. What are you talking about? Yeah. No, anyway, the more positive thing that I was going to say, that the flip side of this is, of course, the talent drain from Airfix has meant that there have been some superbly talented people like Chris and oh God, what's his name? I want to say Oliver, but it's not Oliver, is it? The other chap who's doing the Project Harriet stuff, gone to other companies. Dale, now at Glow 2B. So we're getting some of that talent out into, retained within the model industry, because my expectation was that Dale would find a job outside of this industry because there's more product management jobs outside of this industry than in it. But I'm really glad that he's staying within it. It'll be interesting to see him wearing, a yellow badge rather than a red one. But that's really good, and it means that we've not lost that. And if you see like Luke and his influence at Revell and the way that Revell have responded to that, because again, it's a two-way street, right? It's not that Luke's gone there and said, right, you've got to change anything, because he's just a product manager there. But Revell have accepted, they've got him in because of his talents and because he's had that experience at Airfix, and because they wanted a piece of that transformation pie as well. And they've taken that on board and they're making changes throughout their business. That's really good to see. That's a really healthy thing to see. And I don't know if you've seen the Project Harry, the latest one. It's an hour long, which I think is too long. I think they should have, and I mean to say this to Luke, I meant to send him an email. I've got to get in touch, actually. I think it would have been better broken up into 3, because there's one that Chris does. He talks for about 22 minutes. It's really, really interesting. And I'd recommend anybody goes and watches it. Go and watch it. Watch Chris's part. Then, the next day or whatever, watch the next piece. I can't remember the guy's name. Really, if anybody does remember, please put it in. I'm really sorry, I can't remember his name. Really nice guy. He's doing the Pegasus engine. There's his bit, and then there's a bit actually about the aircraft as well. So 3 different sort of sections to it. But the way that Chris thinks, he's a really talented guy. He's a really nice guy as well. And the way he talks about, making pieces and how I did this, and like, he then prints stuff out and makes it. And it's like, no, that's not the experience I wanted people to have. I just want it to like drop in here. So he'll redesign it. That sort of thought thing, the same way that DBMK do their models, getting into a mainstream manufacturer like Revell, I think, is really healthy. And the fact that Airfix is going away from that is really unfortunate, but it's good to see that other manufacturers are, and I really want them to be successful because of that and what they're doing. And to turn a company like Revell Carrera around is not an easy thing. It's turning an oil tanker. So I think that is a massively positive thing. And again, if you're not subscribed to the Revell channel, I would go and do that on YouTube. Watch their videos, their updates. They're giving a new one every month on the Project Harrier thing. Again, the way that we show like what we want to see from companies is by supporting it when they do good stuff. And when they don't do good stuff, we tell them about it as well. But when they do good stuff, we tell them, we buy their products. Then they do more of that good stuff. That's how it works, right? So that's the positive out of the Hornby degradation, let's call it. It feels a bit like, an aircraft which pieces are breaking up from. The thing is still going. It still has some forward momentum, but like pieces are peeling off. The pilot's gone. People are ejecting and things. It's like it doesn't feel a positive one. Whereas Revell, 2 years ago, I was very critical of Revell. I think Revell did some terrible things in the past in terms of boxing, terrible kits, and charging way too much for them. How much they've changed in the last couple of years is astonishing. And I'm really supportive of that. As I say, because that's how we get them to change, right? Criticize when they do bad things, support when they do good. Again, it's not rocket science. Question: do you think the new team at Airfix will there even be at Telford this year? That's a really good question, and honestly, I couldn't put money on it either way. It's a huge cost. It's really expensive. So, yeah, that's an interesting one, actually. I expect if they do have a stand, it will be nothing like the size that we've seen in prior years. It'll be interesting to see who they get to go. That's a really interesting question. DBMK could always buy Airfix for their aircraft, then flog off all the 135th scale. DBMK is two guys. They're not going to be able to buy. I'm sure the guys would love to be able to, have 10 million cash to buy Airfix, but not at the moment. It's going to be a while. Right. Well. Oh, Paramjit said he will be there, but not with Airfix. Well, there we go. That's telling, isn't it? That's not good times for Hornby. I think the positives out of this, I want to end on the positives, right? They're still committed to delivering all of the new tools that they said they're going to do this year. That's good. They're all delayed, so add 2 months onto what the expectations were. So the FGR2 was going to be July. I think it's September, like minimum now. So delay is okay. Cancellation we don't want. Cancellation of the flowers is abysmal. I don't think we see anything new next year. I think if we do, it will be like a tooling. But I don't expect to see much. I expect to see a lot of vintage classics. And as I say, maybe some re-releases in red boxes, which going against basically tearing up 10 years of brand work, which is a bit sad, but hey ho. The new team, Airfix, do they have substitutes when it goes tits up? The thing is, they work for Castle now, so they'll just go to another Castle now company. That's the way it works in these. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah, Stalwart Limber, which was supposed to be out already. Again, another month or so, I would expect. It will just slip out unannounced, I'm sure. Retailers will get their kits a month after everybody else. It's the new normal. But yeah, that's the positive, that those things are being delayed, it seems, not cancelled. So we will get all of that. And the other positive is there's tons of stuff coming from other companies. It's a really healthy industry. The woes of one individual company do not reflect the wider state of the industry. What they do reflect is its inability to cope in a current modern business environment, for all of the obvious and absolutely predictable reasons that I've been stating for the past 3 years. If they'd acted 3 years ago and sorted some of those out, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. That's the sad part, is that it was all entirely predictable and avoidable. But we are where we are. Lots of other positive stuff going, lots of other model kits coming. We won't be short of things to do. And that's the positive note I'm going to end on. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Appreciate it. Was probably quite warm for a lot of you. It's not been too bad here. It's been warm but comfortable. I haven't been sweating. That's just natural shine. It's my head oil I put on, obviously. Anyway, thanks a lot. I will be on Scale Model Inc. live on Friday, provided this place isn't a furnace. There will be various videos coming out. I say I've got some review videos. I still have the second part of the British AFV colours I'm working on at the moment. Lots of stuff coming now. There will be not exactly a dam break flood of things, but things will start to become a little bit more regular, let's say. I sound like I'm talking about a 50-year-old problem, but not necessarily one of models. So with that, have a great rest of your week. Keep hydrated if you're in the south and mid UK and dealing with heat, or anywhere else that's dealing with a lot of heat at the moment. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.